Hello, I'm Phil Downs and I have a vision. I want to make the world a more accessible place, starting with my hometown of Didsbury.
Phil had this idea of future Didsbury, and he was after an architect or some architects to explore the idea. So we thought, wow, this would be a fantastic opportunity for our students to do a live project with Phil and with members of the Didsbury community that tackles the idea of ease of access and movement, thinking about physical space of Didsbury.
It is awful to fight through that door, and as such I hardly ever go in, and it is quite nice inside.
Thanks to Amy Hanley and her students from the Manchester School of Architecture, we've come up with the first draft of a blueprint for future Didsbury. In this short film, I want to share with you the concept of future Didsbury, its aims and objectives.
I guess the real challenge is to see what you have already and then how you can change it to your desired goal. And that's the fun of such a project, because with the goal of accessibility and making a better environment for everyone, and with the issues of the existing, how do you tackle that? And we love a challenge.
I'd like to see where it can go. If they use our ideas as a base, that'd be brilliant.
Yeah, that'd be really sick, and to know that we were involved as students and to look back at that and later in life as well, to know that we've done something good.
We did a bit of research before actually going to Didsbury, and we found out that the population is an aging population. So we went to the site with older people in mind.
We got the ball rolling with a walkabout. Amy brought 24 students with her to see for themselves what kind of challenges there are in Didsbury village. We were joined by some local residents, splitting into groups who went in different directions to discuss the good, the bad and the ugly, and give the students information they could take back to their drawing boards.
This was an opportunity to experience Didsbury, thinking about how people move using wheelchairs. The students got an opportunity to sit in a wheelchair and manoeuvre, and they found that incredibly difficult in Didsbury because of the different levels, slopes. I myself had a go, and I found myself being tipped into the road, so it was a real eye-opener for them and for me.
You don't realize that kind of thing when you're normally walking, and we don't realize that we're quite lucky to be able to do that because it seems quite normal. But when we were put into that chair, we were like, this is hard. Like, it's not just like physical labor, but you have to like look at the floor, see the slant before, and then like kind of tilt yourself so you're prepared for the tilt. It's just, yeah, it was a lot.
We also tried some visual impairment spectacles which adjusted your vision, and it was striking to experience such kind of a limited vision, peripheral vision or central vision, and moving through Didsbury was incredibly difficult. So these experiences have informed the design process, sort of central to the design process.
And also the noise is something that I hadn't thought about before, and being quite a barrier for people who are visually impaired or less able.
My number one aim for future Didsbury has always been to improve access to the village. On their own, the pavements are in a shocking condition to the point of being dangerous. So something needs to change.
We came up here and I didn't see that there was not a flat pavement, and I kept pushing because I'm having to come up and I'm having to give it a bit of welly.
It's a dropped inspection cover.
The little wheels tripped on that and he nearly came out. Avoid it now, I know it's there. I'll have to come round like this.
When you're already coming up a drop curve, to negotiate something like that, which should really have been repaired because it's dangerous to more people than only me.
surprisingly, when we started this project, we did a few presentations to the Didsbury Civic Society. And in those presentations, we presented these kind of concepts about ease of access, thinking about the surfaces and how all the surfaces from the tram, the street, the pavement, and into the shops could be connected. And quite a number of the different people we spoke to actually said when they had, say, an operation, or they were pushing a pram, or just carrying kind of like lots of shopping, how much they also struggled with moving and crossing roads and other things. So that was another kind of surprise for me, that actually lots of people struggle with movement within the city and within Didsbury village. So we could see how important it was to think about this challenge and develop a design for everybody in Didsbury.
Accessibility was a big challenge that we saw across the whole of Didsbury, like pedestrians, the traffic going on. It's just really hard for people to access the shops, and our design objective was to spruce up the commercial area as well as improving accessibility for everyone in general. For example, if they had a walking stick, that was a challenge as well because the surface was really uneven. So yeah, that was a big objective that we wanted to clean up.
Parking in Didsbury is another question. It's a nightmare. People often say that they won't go shopping in Didsbury because there's nowhere to park. Presentations were made to Didsbury Civic Society and the Traders Association, hoping they would support the project. The response was significant, and the appetite for future Didsbury was a muted frenzy. The appetite couldn't have been stronger, despite the occasional detractor. The walkabout was a huge success, and you could see the engagement of the students as they anticipated going back to the drawing boards and coming up with the solutions. I couldn't wait to see what they came back with.
My first impression was this looked like a great high street, lots of diverse amount of shops, like different types of units there. But on closer inspections, a few of them were closed down, and then we started to interrogate why this was so. And then through walking around with Phil, we were looking at things on the high street, and you start seeing the surfaces being deteriorated and all these problems, issues with accessibility, reasons that really put people off going on the high street itself. And so, you started to think, on face value, it looks like a great high street, but there was little things that just needed to be looked at and to be interrogated to make it a great high street. And I guess that was our task next, to see what we could do to improve the conditions on the high street.
And the pavement's absolutely awful. The drop curves are bad, so I've used the road to come round here. And I'll use the road again because the next drop curve is awful and the one after that's not so bad. So I leave the pavement at the other end of Didsbury, and then I come all the way through to as far as they come up, get back on the pavement there to avoid them being too dangerous.
It's a nice area, Didsbury, but the street lets it down a bit, especially with accessibility. It's quite difficult to cross, maybe even for the the elderly people and things. And I think if they look at it from that point of view, how it could really benefit and boost the economy of the street, making it a friendly area is also it's a draw for the town.
It's an opportunity to think about how you could integrate electrical services that could support electrical cars, but also potentially integrate services that would be useful for differently able people. So we could have systems in place that made an acoustic environment that would help guide people through space if they were visually impaired, or potentially including loop systems for people with hearing impairments and things like that.
We want to implement electric buses as well, which is a good idea for Didsbury because it'll reduce noise pollution around the area, as well as thinking about sustainability for the future as well.
So yeah, I thought it was a really good opportunity to sort of explore kind of the future Didsbury, making everybody kind of included in Didsbury, but also thinking about sort of future technologies.
I think the main issues that we saw when we were on site was the sound level. It was really chaotic because of all the congestion from the traffic, so that became one of our main objectives. And another thing was that all the shops were really inaccessible, many with a step up to reach into the shop without an existing ramp. And another big issue that we had was we found that the floor was very uneven, and that made it uncomfortable to walk in.
I found it interesting speaking to the people and having a chat with the likes of Phil Downs and people from the Civic Society, and hearing what problems they thought that Didsbury had, and just listening to them, because we can look at it we can walk around ourselves and have a different viewpoint than they will. And ultimately they live there and they know the area well, so it was interesting to see what they thought were the issues that Didsbury had in terms of accessibility, movement and traffic, and really it's all about the people in projects like this, so I thought that was the most important thing, just listening to them really.
For me, I would never go into those pubs that you started off, because it's just you're walking through a car park, you've got all this, you're not quite sure where the entrance is, it's not nice. No. It's not good quality architecture, but then other places it's just easy and then you use them more.
A lot of the access to buildings in Didsbury that we're looking at today look like an architect's never been with them when they've been looking at the project. And what makes the botanists worse is they probably didn't involve a firm of architects and they probably knew that the pavement was an issue but decided that probably it was too much, it was complicated, whatever, I don't know. But trying to get in there takes 3 people to get me through the door there. 1 to hold it and 2 to get me through the door.
As futuristic as it sounds, we also try to make it as realistic as possible. So there are steps that we can take to make Didsbury future Didsbury. And you know, this is a project that it doesn't have to happen overnight. If even certain elements of it are implemented, that would go a long way to the high street. So we're super excited that the council are looking into it, and if we can have some sort of impact onto the future of what Didsbury looks like, then that is a success.
What the students came up with was beyond my expectations. And when I saw the range of solutions they created, we knew the next step was to present their proposals to the public. What better location than the iconic Manchester Central Library to host an exhibition? A chance for Didsbury residents and Manchester City councillors to view the drawings and discuss the proposals.
We always thought of this as being beneficial for everybody. So part of the project was to think about how does this project reconnect with Didsbury Village as a whole. So the students, once they finished their designs, stepped back for a moment and then resurveyed the project and thought, how has this changed the shape of Didsbury? How is it more inclusive for young children? How is it more inclusive for elderly people? And lots of the projects include sort of almost like park areas in the middle of the village. So one of the great opportunities was that actually now all of these houses in the area are within, say, 5-10 minutes from green space, rather than a very, very busy and polluted road. So we were like, oh good, this is really good.
The idea of making a greener and a nicer environment, you know, making more, you know, activity areas for the high street. These little features, you know, would boost the high street itself, and that should increase footfall and make it, you know, a more, you know, accessible and nicer place to come down. You know, it's just little adjustments that are needed to make it so much better.
So we wanted it to be a shared space for everyone, so it needs to be flat, it needs to be engaging for people, a nice environment, so nice and green and modern, and spaces for people to sort of congregate in things. So we proposed that private traffic, such as your car, wouldn't be allowed on the street, it would just be public transport and bicycles. So we proposed that it was just that and pedestrians, and sort of limit the amount of traffic going through, because it's quite a busy road. And hopefully in turn that would make it a nicer place for people to come visit Didsbury, shop, or go out, or whatever they would want to do.
One of our main things was to redesign the central library area. in terms of making it almost like a plaza where different events can go on. We added a new pavilion where it can house markets like Sunday markets or Didsbury's markets spaces in there. So it's this really theatrical wooden timber pavilion, which is amazing. Added some water features to add some blue infrastructure to the high street, and some new lighting solutions just to make it a brighter, safer entrance to Didsbury. Like, this is welcome to Didsbury.
I think we've got quite a range of different propositions that are really exciting, which kind of go from, like I say, tram lines with parkland areas to more subtle kind of adjustments in the kind of traffic flow and surfacing. And then we've also got projects which pedestrianise the entire of Didsbury Village and change all the surfaces and make all of the shops and also the upper level floors of those shops accessible. So I'm really excited about the project, and I'm really proud of the students for doing a fantastic job and taking it so seriously.
The exhibition at Central Library was a huge success. We then took the exhibition to Emmanuel Church in the centre of the village and then on to the old parsonage.
We recently had a meeting with the councillors of the ward. They were actually, by the end of it, by seeing the students' projects, really enthusiastic about what we'd produced, and they talked about how we could potentially implement some of the strategies that the students had proposed. So that's a very exciting prospect. We also started talking about places like Withington and other connected locations that potentially have the same idea. And that was a part of the project from the beginning, was thinking about how can we develop a prototype that can, or a design guide that could be rolled out in different locations across Manchester. Everywhere has its unique character, but having a series of strategies that could be mobilised and used by different members of community to think creatively about access. So with working with very small shops in Didsbury, we found that that was potentially like the most challenging and difficult environment to fit lifts and design with accessibility. And if we can do it there, we can do it anywhere.
From my point of view, it's excellent to hear the kind of comments from someone like Amy that tells us that we could possibly have a template for the future. We already had some positive feedback about Future Didsbury from our feedback forms. We've also had people contact us to offer their services, such as a streetscape artist and a commercial manager. We've also got the icing on the cake to a lot of disabled people with multiple disabilities, and that's provision of a changing place facility in Emmanuel Church at the centre of the village. And that's amazing by anyone's standards.
We're taking ideas of shared spaces which have been developed in places like Poynton and other places internationally across the world, but we're experimenting with them, and we're developing different strategies that hopefully could contribute to a kind of an evolving concept of villages and city streets that are much more accessible. So yeah, really hope that we can take this project forward.
It's very, very exciting to see it all coming together. We all have different ideas for the future of Didsbury, and I hope that the council will see all our efforts and try to, pick up some of the ideas and put it forward.
You can even go further than Manchester, because the idea of accessibility should be something that should be universally adopted. So if it's successful, then it does become almost a template and a case study to see how we can retrofit high streets, which right now there are issues of high streets failing, a lot of high streets failing. So maybe these interventions, making it more accessible, would revitalize these high streets. And I think that's definitely worth everyone looking into, because we need to make, I guess, the future accessible. to all.
I would love to see an accessible for all template that's rolled out across Manchester and then across the world.
The original dream is coming true. Future Didsbury and the way Manchester School of Architecture have put together all the different elements of their work is giving us a brilliant start. If we go forward from here to provide what could possibly be a template for other towns around the UK, anywhere in Europe for that matter, it'll be a dream come true.